Saturday, the 14th of June, 2025. And before I get into my chat GPT conversations with regarding the sun and the moon, Astro Theosophy, I asked a bunch of questions to prepare myself for the show with Dave Weiss, for Flat Earth Dave. Please check out his stuff. He is amazing. And he brings on incredible guests. Not that I'm biased or anything like that, but he brings on legitimate experts and professionals in their fields. And I've shared videos that they have done where, like, even the science stuff, it's just so fascinating for anyone that likes that stuff. And so, um, where was I going with that? So a lot going on right now, and so I want to talk about that first before I get into like the sun and the moon, the luminaries, and all of that stuff. And but the BB files, guys and girls, oh my goodness. And so it's not anything that anyone that's been watching my channel for several years, like, it's not stuff that you're not already aware of. And it's heavy because it's just like it's in less than 2 hours, which is incredible to even get it to that level, right? Like, I know that sounds long to a lot of people, but it's not. And it's on Jolt. And the reason why they're doing it is because, like, people can give donations or pay to watch it. I'm not going to share it on my channel. I did buy it. I did watch it a couple of times, and my partner's been watching it with me as well, because there's a lot of information in there, and it does involve people internationally, and involved in so many different capacities within government or working for governments that are corrupted at the top, right? So what I've been saying for years is it's finally coming out. So you've got Near Hafetz that's in this documentary. You've got the Adelsons, both of them talking. You guys don't want to miss that, and gifts and champagne, pink and the green leaves and stuff like that, and more, and jewels, and then you've got Arnon Milchan, Shul Elovich, Israeli telecom mogul from Walla. There's just so much, and I say that they have people that are manipulating media in order to paint people in a certain way, just like they did with Mark Carney and Justin Trudeau and all these other clowns, respectfully speaking, and bought and paid for state-funded media that are working for corrupted individuals, that even when investigations are conducted, they are completely arrogant and egotistical and think they're above the law, don't have to answer questions or don't remember questions, and saying that everyone's colluding against him, et cetera, et cetera. And so these investigations have been ongoing for a while now, and it's finally being presented somehow to mainstream media, because even last year apparently they tried to share this video, and it was removed. And I wasn't even tracking that, but I was sharing the videos that was in that documentary already. I was naming the people, and so again, this is not self-aggrandizing. It's saying that if you look at my previous work, then anyways, if anything, there's a lot more information that I can provide on these individuals and have throughout. Talked about their involvement with funding election campaigns. So the Adelsons were really big donors for the Republicans, for example, and then you've got the Bill Gates types, it's for the Democrats, and then you've got the Soros types for the Democrats, these leftist radicals. And so this information needs to get out. So even if you pay, I don't know if there's a limit or a minimum requirement for the payments, but I paid $10. I would have paid more. I should have paid more, because these people have risked their lives and their reputations and everything to get this information out, and largely because their hands were led by people that were doing their jobs, brave investigators, law enforcement, of varying capacities, that are actually holding these people to account. And it's incredible to watch. I love watching it, because this is what should be happening in Canada, what should have been happening in Canada now for the last few years. But again, we have people that are not even answering questions from the RCMP at the higher levels, where we even have RCMP whistleblowers that have been screaming from the rooftops, brave heroes from within, that are even sharing the names of people that are still working in our cabinet that are corrupt, and there's foreign interference and so many other issues, and they're not getting held accountable. And I've talked about the differences between our system of government versus the Americans, and where our cabinet ministers, there's zero checks and balances or transparency, or them getting asked questions or being held accountable for decisions that they made, or policies they've implemented, or certain organizations that they have funded with our taxpayers' money that meets their agendas and their narratives. And so, for example, with Carney, it's going to be the Green Fund, woke DEI, ESG, CBDC, biodigital convergence stuff, and heavily involved with WEF, by the way, Chrystia Freeland and Champagne. are there still, possibly. I think I don't. They must be anyway, because it's ongoing right now. Dan Dix from Press for Truth is there, and I donated to his fund because I think he's a hero. And this guy was also talking to Peter Thiel. He thinks he's above everyone too. He didn't think he deserved to answer any questions, despite the fact that he's completely using like the data surveillance, cybersecurity, cyber warfare stuff. It's been an absolute overreach. And he's working with people like Alex Karp, who I've shared videos on before as well. This guy is a radical leftist. And if you look at the BB files, you understand why that is a huge issue and why there's been more people that have suffered and died by communist, Marxist ideologies, especially when you separate that from divinity or from a god or a creator, with no philosophical or religious foundational frameworks codified into law in order to manage. It's like the anarchist types, right? No government except for me, I'm the government. I'm the god. I'm the one that rules over you. And so I'm going to replace your government. So these are the crazy types. And saying that they prevented right-wing extremism throughout Europe by shaping the minds through psychological operations and propaganda. Like, they're admitting it. And it's crazy. And what they've said that they would do to people, even with chemical biological warfare. This is Alex Karp, this guy that would never be able to serve in any capacity as a first responder. And again, talking the big talk, such a big man. So these types are also funding what's going on now in the U.S. with these protests and these riots, and it's getting out of control, of course, just like they wanted to. And so I shared a video a few days ago from posts that I made in October of 2021, and talking about, and I was sharing again, like people that were within the January 6th Capitol riots. I was exposing people then and saying that there were people that were plants, people that were bought and paid for, that there were rehearsals conducted even weeks prior to January 6th. The official date had not been obviously announced at that time, right? But it was going to be around that time in January, again, just to elicit emotional responses in people during a significant ceremony in a significant area. This is textbook. It's so predictable that it's almost laughable, except for the fact that people are dying and getting duped, and taxpayers' money is being used. And so you got this like No Kings protest happening today in the US. And I'm going to share some, because again, I'm just going all over the place. I will just play my videos.
You're right. White people went through 1,000 years of slavery. 1 million.
Okay, so this is just for people that are in the current education systems.
Using their breasts. They got their breasts.
Because think about it this.
Okay, anyway, it's going to start.
White people didn't undergo 250 years of slavery.
You're right. White people went through 1,000 years of slavery. 1 million white Europeans and Americans were enslaved during the Arab slave trade. And America went to war with the Middle East in the 1700s to ensure that Americans wouldn't be kidnapped off ships and forced into slavery. This claim is factually incorrect and lacks nuance.
Well said. And that's just one area he's talking about, one time throughout history with over 1 million people enslaved. There were also people from Europe that were brought in on boats and other means, Irish, Scottish, French, etc., here working as slaves, even including sex slaves. And so, yeah, people need to learn their history. This was from David J. Harris Jr. Got this from a friend. I have heard from a source inside the Pentagon that I cannot share their information, that has told me that things are going to get very dangerous and violent around the United States on Saturday. So that's today. The source went on to say the likelihood of a coordinated, organized, and widespread attack on American cities is high. Being masked behind the left's plans to protest and overthrow the government. Stay ready, get stocked up, clean. So by stocked up food and water and things like that, don't go out. You know, I would like today I would encourage you, if you're in major leftist cities right now, or rightist cities, actually, like any place in the US right now, just to be cautious and careful. This is what people want on the left and the right. I'm talking about the extremes here. And by the way, even in Smotrich and Ben Gvir, extreme right members of parliament in Israel, these are the people I believe that they were saying that we have sanctions on again, like in Canada, and you need to look at their financials. So Smotrich is the Minister of Finance, and Ben Gvir, the Minister of National Security. And if you look into these extreme right ideologues, these fascists. Look at the BB files. You'll see a lot of stuff that they've said, that they've shared, and Netanyahu's involvement with them. So people are trying to separate him and say, oh, he's not part of the same government party, but they're aligned. They're a coalition, and he has multiple photos, even in recent history, with them, talking to them. And again, they are literally Minister of Finance, Minister of National Security. And then look at the financials with them and people in Europe, corrupted individuals. I might get to that though. So like paid protests and riots, and it's going to be people that are from both extremes that are going to make this hopefully not unsafe, but anyway, and unnecessary risk for law enforcement and so many other first responder types, just like throwing them out again, overwhelming them, inundating them, risking their friggin' lives over stupid shit that people within government are funding. Absolutely ridiculous. This is what I mean again by blue on blue. So Breaking California funneled $73.6 million to anti-deportation groups and protesters. This is where the money's at. This is why like a lot of the lawyers, like the legal people, also in the U.S., in various states are.
Does everybody remember prior to the launch? Does everybody remember prior to the launch of COVID, there was an event that took place. It was a pandemic simulation called Event 201. The event was put on by Johns Hopkins, the World Economic Forum, and the Bill Gates Foundation. The simulation outlined a global pandemic caused by a coronavirus, bringing in world businesses, world governments, the powers that be, and how they would tackle this coronavirus, which started in a pig and was transmitted to humans. Coincidentally, that simulation happened just a few months before COVID happened. There are some people that still think like it's just a crazy coincidence, and I can't help you if that's you. Did you know that the National Blueprint for Biodefense actually did yet another simulation? It was conducted in April of 2024, which outlined yet another global pandemic to hit in July of 2025, particularly July 4th. The simulation outlined a terrorist attack using a biological agent, and it killed 280,000 Americans and infected 400,000 other Americans all in a single day. The agent of choice was the Nipah virus, which can be transmitted from animals to humans, humans to humans. The simulation, which you can read, even talks about things like the water supply being affected. I don't want to bring a ton of attention to this, but I do think that it's noteworthy.
And the water supply is being affected, possibility? Yeah. And did you know that there's possibly like underneath watering delivery systems, there's now other mechanisms that can impact the water delivery systems and actually put things in them, put things in the water? It might be terrorists, but it might be people that are working in the government or with them that built those and that would put those things in it and then be able to target areas, locations throughout the U.S. and Canada. I know about the U.S. I'm hoping it's not happening yet in Canada, but maybe it is.
To talk about, to bring into our awareness just slightly, solely for the purpose of pushing this off through prayer and our intention to live a life rooted in the truth and all the things we've learned over the past 5 years. And that's really all I want to say about that. Does everybody remember prior to the launch of COVID, does everybody
with their leadership, and we also have the IRS here.
President Trump and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem have deployed IRS agents to Los Angeles to investigate the funding behind these riots. Amazing. This is good. If they actually do it properly. Anyways, the strategic move aims to uncover the financial sources fueling the unrest. This is the right way to use IRS agents. Oh man, so many people in government or working for government and these radical types are going to get arrested, I hope.
With their leadership.
That's what, respectfully speaking, even the Freedom Convoy, I was saying that it was actually peaceful protesters. You're welcome. That made it as peaceful as it was and actually made it into a movement and bigger than what it was, like Tamara Leach and Chris Babar and Jeremy McKenzie and Helen Gru, all these people, like so many different people that were making sure that this was as peaceful as we could possibly make it and targeting and calling out people that were funded by these radicals on the left and right. But a lot of them, for some reason, are on the left. There's just a lot more money in it. And because there's been zero accountability. And these are the people that, again, that are influencing mainstream media, the academic systems, the banking systems, WEF, World Health Organization, the foundations, etc. And so the Freedom Convoy, a lot of donations were being funneled from these leftists in order to cause harm to people that were peacefully protesting. And they did the same thing for the March of Freedom as well, against parents and religious people. Absolutely disgusting. And then you're making the cops have to deal with it. And like from multiple different organizations, and CSIS and CSEC and CBSA and GAC and the military, literally because of people like Justin Trudeau and Mark Carney, these clown types, respectfully speaking, that keep leaving them out to dry and fend for themselves against the people they've radicalized and brought in illegally or to exploit, that are also causing more harm in our country. Yeah, so this is Durham. This is just outside of Toronto. Durham School Board spent $639,000, almost $750,000 on race consultants with little public oversight. This is the shit I'm talking about with the consultants and the contracts, that in multiple different industries that people are getting. There's like zero overwatch. People are hiring their friends or their family or people that they don't want to question. And they're seen as the experts. And we've saw with Matt Walsh, what is a woman and all this other stuff, like these are who we're talking to or trying to talk to, these people that are literally just zero critical thinking skills, and they're impacting, again, like our children. So anyway, this is from Anna Paulina Luna, and yes, there are red flags about her bias, very clear, I'll call that out. But anyways, on June 14th there will be protests across the country that are backed by communist groups with ties to the CCP. It's not just the CCP. These groups are using ICE protests as a ruse. MAGA do not show up in gear. If you do attend and witness illegal activity, record faces and license plates. We will ask you to submit footage and information to the FBI. This is orchestrated. I'm so incredibly amazed that this is actually finally reaching mainstream and in like the political spectrum, because I have gotten so much blowback for sharing information on riots and protests and who's involved internationally, showing the repeat crisis actors, all of this stuff, showing fake footage that they're taking even from movies, and how this has been coordinated oftentimes even weeks in advance, and there's rehearsals and training that is provided by these certain organizations as well to make this like a coordinated effort.
Fascism is a reaction to communism.
Why do people want me to watch that?
One night, a group of friends gets to...
What is this?
Fascism is a reaction to communism.
Listen to this.
As chaos unfolds across this country, I want to take a moment to talk about this. Now, communism predated fascism. Its goal was to dismantle class hierarchies and traditional authority in pursuit of radical equality. To enforce this, regimes relied on propaganda, censorship, political imprisonment, and the destruction of cultural identity. In the Soviet Union, churches were destroyed. In Maoist China, young people were told to eradicate old customs. And in Cambodia, even personal names were banned to force total conformity. Now, that instinct to erase the past, revise reality, and suppress dissent is alive in the radical left today, and increasingly in the Democratic Party.
Yep.
Their ethos is deconstruction, masked as progress, uprooting norms, history, and identity, while undermining the rule of law just as much as they claim Trump does. The left throws around the word fascist to describe Trump or anyone on the right. But real fascism didn't appear out of nowhere. It was a reaction to communist upheaval. Mussolini began as a Marxist. Hitler's rise came through a workers' party that fused socialist language with extreme nationalism to restore order amid chaos. Now, here's the key. Conservatives do value order and tradition more often than liberals. That's not fascism, though. It's moral intuition. And as Jonathan Haidt notes in his book, The Righteous Mind, conservatives emphasize authority, loyalty, and sanctity, while liberals focus more on care and fairness. But defending America's founding principles now gets labeled extremist, when in reality, it's a response to disorder. When the state fails to maintain order, look at 4 years of open borders, for instance, it's not radicalization that responds to this, it's recalibration, a restoration of order. Here's the problem. Real fascism could rise.
And just for context, I have videos, God, like 2021 at least. Again, like I have a lot of accounts that were zapped, but like information that I've shared consistently throughout the years to remind people that the response throughout history, it's been very predictable, even with policies and measures implemented, and freedoms limited and restricted because of false flag events and things like that, and propaganda and psyops. And I was saying that throughout history, the response to extreme leftist radical ideologues has been, on the left, has been extremism. On the right, these fascists, Nazi types, neo-Nazi types, the KKK types, is a response to that. And I'm going to reiterate, when people talk about communists and Marxists or socialists to people that are aware of the history of the world, but I mean, if you want to focus on Europe and stuff like that, in the 1900s, I just want to make sure that I'm very clear that like the response that's elicited to people that hear people saying that they're a communist or a Marxist and being proud of it and justifying it and talking about anarchy and all this stuff, it's like telling the same, like, so telling someone like me you're a communist is like telling me you're a Nazi. It literally is. Or KKK, or if you're Antifa, to me there's no difference. It still elicits the same horrible response internally that I try to mask. But it's just like, oh, that's very interesting, and then they'll give their spiels, and I'm just like, wow, like you literally sound on the opposite end, but the same traits as what you call Nazis and KKK and stuff like that. And that's why I shared that video of these groups within Canada and the US, but part like a heads of the KKK and heads of the communist parties, and just how vastly different their ideologies were. But again, there's a lot of similarities and parallels with how the response to who's running the show at the top, despite the fact that one is an anarchist group and one is more of an authoritarian group, order out of chaos. So when you have too much anarchy, the response has been too much authoritarian control, and this is where the recalibration is needed, and people that are more level-headed, that are not these extreme types, and we do have them in government as well, on the left and the right. I'm saying this, and if you watch the BB files, I'm going to reiterate, it's going to make a lot more sense with what's going on internationally. Why? Come on, God. This is the LA riots in the 90s. Come on. And this post is saying, if Black lives don't matter to Black people, why would they matter to anyone else? I work too hard for this. I don't even understand nothing. It's not right. It's not right. It's not right what y'all doing. I came from the ghetto too. Same as all of you did. Y'all need to listen. But y'all messed up my business. And you call it Black Power. You mad at the white man. Why destroy my business? Yeah. He said that he came from the hood or whatever it was, too, and worked his ass off to have a business and make it the example that people need. And what happened? They destroyed his business. Did any impact happen to anyone else? No. And it was within their own communities as well. Make that make sense. Why destroy my truck? His truck. Why steal my computer? I'm trying to make it. Could you understand that? Did y'all see it? I'm trying to make it. Yeah, and because he's a business owner. Oh, you're a Nazi. Yeah, idiot. Respectfully.
Hey, Pumpkin, it is once again.
Oh, I love this post.
Hey, Pumpkin, it is once again time for my annual Don't Tell Me Happy Pride Month post. Why don't you open your little earsies and listen to somebody who was actually there for the fight before it became a brand deal or a trend. Oh, geez, we fought the fight when it could cost you your family, your job, or your safety. Not just your spot in somebody's podcast. We just wanted basic human rights. We wanted to love who we wanted to love without being treated like a public health crisis. Nobody fought so grown men could march down the street in leather harnesses while children watched from the sidewalk. Now it's 2025 and Pride's turned into a rainbow glitter-covered nightmare. Now, something that used to represent unity and resilience looks like somebody double-booked a fetish convention with a family-friendly street fair. The worst part? They warned us. Conservative Christians said that this would happen. Now we've served them the I told you so card on a silver platter. They said next thing you know, they'll be marching down the street in bondage gear with a dildo stuck to their forehead. We called that fear-mongering, and now we have rainbow butt plugs, leash play, and hormones being pushed on kids whose frontal lobes haven't even finished loading yet. Let's get something clear real quick. I'm not anti-expression. I'm anti-stupidity. Hey, you want to let your freak flag fly? Fly that motherfucker. But don't do it in front of a daycare. I'll level with you. I know not every pride event is a complete sexually driven disaster. But don't play with me. You know the loudest, kinkiest corners are the ones stealing the spotlight. If the community doesn't start policing itself and showing a little bit of dignity, self-respect, and maybe a little bit of class, we're going to end up actually losing our rights because we're doing everything they said we were going to do. Tell me happy Veterans Day, happy Memorial Day. Don't tell me happy Pride Month. Because, baby, we did not fight for years to be represented by rainbow gimp suits and hormone clinics for 13-year-olds. We were never trying to shove our sexuality down anyone's throats. We were just trying not to get set on fire for it. So while you're out there prancing around in your assless chaps and your rainbow dildo suction cup to your forehead, don't think that you're making progress. You're not pushing forward. You're pushing people away. And it's embarrassing. My pride flag, still red, white, and blue. Hey, Pumpkin, it is one.
Well said. And she's gorgeous. And part of the LGB OGs. And she's right. And in a lot of different ways. And the way there's backlash now is that there are people that are genuine trans people as well, which is like a very low percentage of the population throughout history, a very low percentage of people. And I would absolutely include Blair White in that category that are trans and yeah, and genuine. And so, but anyways, what was I saying about, so like now even with Trump, with what's going on with these rules, like now like anyone that's trans like can't even work in certain levels of the government. And so because people have been exploiting it and abusing it, and unfortunately, and a lot of taxpayers' money going towards things that people possibly shouldn't be doing. They should be getting help for possible mental health issues or whatever. Anyways, I don't want to unpack that too much, but there's that. So like now people that are legit trans people, which is like 0.005% of the population or whatever, statistically speaking, throughout history, which has gone way up. In some categories and age groups, it's like up to like 3.5 to almost 4% people identifying as trans. And then you've got another layer of the of people that are identifying as part of the TQ plus IAXYZ and the polyamorous demi, anyways, those groups. And so even gay marriage now is being questioned in some states because people have had enough of people that have been hijacking the LGBT community. And so now more restrictions and limitations are being questioned. So yeah, you're making it worse. You asked for too much.
Hey, Pumpkin, it is one.
You're being too crazy. So today I shared the BB files, and it exposes Netanyahu, his criminality, his wife. There's countless actors there, even involved in Hollywood productions, and billionaires who are funding propaganda and psyops that are profoundly impacting Canada and the U.S. And I get so much hate. And so there are people that are part of the Conservative Party, including the leader. And it's not to throw shade or anything like that, but like all I'm saying is respectfully, just take a look at the BB files. If no one wants to look at the actual accounts, witness testimony from Israeli Jews that are sharing information, exposing corruption and crimes against humanity, etc., then I just don't understand it, right? Like people are so comfortable trolling people like me who's trying to share this information to assist people within Israel that are under a corrupted regime. And it's just very interesting. I don't know.
What is love? Baby, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me no more.
Ils ont besoin que tu la lances cette brique et que tu mettes le feu. Ils ont besoin que tu la lances cette brique et que tu mettes le feu. Tu crois que c'est toi qui as décidé de la lancer? Mais non, ça a été anticipé. C'est une opération psychologique. Et ta brique, c'est une justification en plus. Tu crois te rebeller, mais tu leur donnes exactement ce qu'ils veulent. Et en plus, tu te Ils ont besoin que tu la lances cette brique et que tu mettes le feu. Tu crois que c'est toi qui as décidé de la lancer? Mais non, ça a été...
How many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
Right now, I hope none.
Okay. How many does Israel have?
No idea.
No idea. You were in the government. They don't tell you that stuff.
No idea.
Who do they tell?
God damn it, I was on mute again.
No idea.
Do you recognize the hypocrisy of Israel having a secret illicit nuclear weapons program that it won't open up its doors to and won't talk about, and then lecturing everyone else in the region about nuclear weapons?
Absolutely not. You know why?
You talk about hypocrisy. If an Iranian guest came on my show and I asked him about Iran's nuclear, he said, I don't know, I'm not going to talk about it. Would you be okay with that? You'd be outraged.
Of course.
And yet you sit here as a former minister of the Israeli government saying, I don't know, never talked about nuclear
because there was like 16 United Nations Security Council resolutions against Iran.
And there is against Israel. And there is against Israel as well.
About
your nuclear program?
No.
Yes, there is. UN Resolution 487. Let me read it to you. The UN Security Council in 1981 calls upon Israel urgently to place its nuclear facilities under the safeguards of the IAEA. Why haven't you done that?
Because
Iran has never attacked a neighbor. Israel has repeatedly attacked its neighbors. Iran signed the Non-Proliferation Treaty. Israel has refused to sign. Iran submits to inspection by the International Nuclear Energy Agency. Israel refuses to submit. Iran has no nuclear weapons. Israel has between 75 and 400 nuclear weapons. So Israel poses an existential threat to Iran. For the last 40 years...
How many nuclear weapons does Iran have as of today?
And it's always, it's going to have nuclear weapons capabilities in the next few weeks, It's a lie. And Bibi and this guy, criminals, and it's the same narrative, and it's boring now. And first of all, people are dying, including people within Israel. So that's a wake-up reality check. And then we have the leader of the Conservative Party, Pierre Poilievre, bragging and sharing a post from October of 2024 about how a nuclear attacking Iran essentially would be a blessing from the Jews. Literally, I need to find that again. I shared it. And then Michelle Ferrari from the MP Conservative, I don't know if she's still elected or not. Maybe she wasn't elected this time around. But again, a part of the Conservative Party, and sharing the same video. And they're bragging about it. And they have no idea what's going on. And that they're actually backing and funding right-wing extremists like Smotrich and Ben Gvir and Netanyahu. That's killing a lot of people, and you're bragging about it, and again, it's a lie. They want to have nuclear energy capabilities, just like so many other countries have, and they have been open to inspections, etc., for years, and they have signed the non-proliferation, or whatever you want to call it, treaties, etc. Israel has not, under Netanyahu, and there have been protests for so long against him and his corrupted regime, and also a lot of leftist woke ideologues that have also penetrated Israel in these in key positions as well, that are also pushing radical ideologues. Anyway, there's so much to unpack. BB files, I've shared it on my X. Again, please pay to watch it. I'm not going to share it on my account because, again, these people risk their lives in order to get that documentary out there, and I want to respect them to do that. It's not posted on YouTube or Rumble or anything like that, and so I'm sharing this information on a Saturday morning because and it keeps me up honestly, sometimes as well, because like this is important and the information's not getting to where it needs to go. And then I'm sharing even the BB files, on Michelle Ferreri's Instagram or on Pierre Poilievre's Instagram, and it's not, and I'm just getting attacked by people that are idiots. Respectfully speaking. They're not even looking at the video first before they comment. And this is what I mean. This is where we're at. It's a cyber war right now, and with lazy people that are just too, I don't know, just too fully captured to even understand or wrap their heads around what's going on right now.
How many nuclear weapons?
So this is from Mr. Crazy Pants. This was from August of 2024. The U.S. will very likely fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran. Palantir's Alex Karp says, yeah, he's saying it's because that's what's being shaped. That's what's being shaped by your company.
These deaths, these catastrophes.
This is news updates for real. John, he's been at my house. We didn't podcast, so watch it, please.
These deaths, these catastrophes, they happen for real, and then they're twisted.
Yeah.
But there are people dying. Like, there are people that lose their lives, that innocent fucking people, your neighbor.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then they find they got this really tricky way, you know, to make us fight about it. And you end up fighting with your neighbor, rather than rallying with your neighbor.
Yeah,
right?
Never let a good tragedy go to waste, it seems. And this is why you look at these things, you look at something like COVID and you could suggest that it was orchestrated, and potentially. But then you could also suggest, well, look, this is something that's happened, an accident. Let's capitalize on this and use it to our advantage. I think it's a bit of a combination of both, to be fair.
100%. Brother, you're right on it.
Yeah.
This is what it is. It's natural occurring tragedies that are twisted and used to make us so like nothing's orchestrated. Like, people give politicians and these cunts way too much credit.
Yeah.
They give them way too much credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So look, these motherfuckers are using our tragedies. This is what I said the other day, and I mean this. They exploit the deaths of us peasants, to further their maniacal fucking, their end goals, right? A plane crashes, a fucking boat crashes, biological warfare, a pandemic happens. Somehow they'll use it to turn it into a left versus right thing. But it's not a left versus right thing, my friend. No, because trust me, the left and the right are the same fucking wing. It's the same animal, two different wings. You know what I'm saying? They're all in on it together. Trump and the Clintons are standing behind the fucking curtain laughing. These deaths, these catastrophes.
And I don't even know actually how involved they are involved, but Project Esther, ESTHER, it's also organized by, the Heritage Foundation's heavily involved in Project Esther. Look at who's involved in that. And then you've got these people that are what I would consider to be right-wing extremists. Mark Levin, Sean Hannity, people that are part of the Heritage Foundation, and again, you got the connections with JD Vance, Palantir with that as well, and others. And so look into that and just see who's donating to the Heritage Foundation, who's funding it, where the bias is. Look at the propaganda that's being pushed by people that I don't even think they understand what they're doing and saying, but they're beaking off a lot of misinformation about what's going on in Israel and Palestine and the Middle East, and they don't know what they're talking about. They get paid a lot of money.
Well, a town in Texas,
and they have like one-on-one conversations with Trump. Like, they literally have access, and this is what they're doing with it. So well done, Fox News. I'm including you in that as well. Ben Shapiro, Dr. Jordan Peterson, whether you know it or not, you are. There's a bias, and it's a significant bias. It's a very important bias that you need to look into if you actually care about humanity, respectfully. Anyway.
Well, a town in Texas has over $4 million of its own local tax dollars being sent to Israel. When they audited their books and found this, the town of San Marcos decided to stop that aid. Now, Governor Abbott, Greg Abbott of Texas, says you actually can't do that. It's against the law. Now, Israel receives
billions of dollars in federal aid from the United States government. This local government, for a small town of only 70,000 people, found that their residents were sending $4 million a year. And they said, we actually don't want to do that. We want to send that to our local schools, our fire departments, maintain our roads. And the state is saying, you cannot do that. You must continue to send that money to Israel. Now, this is not quite a cut and dry story.
Yeah, it's not going to Israel.
It's outrageous that the governor is saying, no, you need to keep sending your local tax dollars to Israel. And he has his own crazy reasons. But the bill was also a little bit strange, too. This is, again, a town of 70,000 people sending over $4 million per year to Israel instead of the local priorities that they wanted. They drafted a resolution to stop that. And Governor Abbott said, you can't do that because it's anti-Semitism. So they are obligated to send their money abroad to Israel. Here is his tweet about it. And then also he wrote the letter. He says that this is against state law. What law? Well, actually, there is a law in Texas that no government entity.
So the irony is there are leftists and Democrats that are pushing far right Nazi communist propaganda. And then you have people that are Jewish that are Nazis. Yes, I said that. Yeah. And so very interesting times we're living in. Very interesting times. A lot to unpack. So we have, we've gone extreme.
May enter into a contract worth $100,000 or more unless it includes a written verification that the entity does not boycott Israel and will not boycott Israel during their term. So this is basically
they're calling it a boycott instead of actually like getting to keep their money that they are putting into their government for their community in order to build the communities better. Somehow that's considered to be a boycott, which is hilarious.
Anti-BDS law on the books. The town, though, the resolution itself is a little above its britches. It's a bit crazy because the resolution of the town calls for a ceasefire negotiation in Gaza. How can a small Texas town do that? And it calls for Israel to remove itself from Gaza. Okay. Again, that's a little insane how a small town in Texas can do this. But what they want to do is try to reallocate their own money. And the governor is saying, no, you can't have your own local priorities.
No, Abbott.
Now, this is not, again, a part of the BDS movement, which calls for boycotts of Israel. Congress did try to pass a law making it illegal to boycott Israel. That never became a law. But in fact, 38 states have anti-BDS laws on their books, state laws. These have not held up in court, but they have not been struck down either. So each state has these laws. 13 additional states want to put them on the books, even though more than 70% of Americans do not support anti-BDS laws, because we should be able to boycott whoever the hell we want to.
Yeah.
That's our right. No government should tell us what we have to support and what. Well, a town in Texas has.
We were hearing this week that Iran is just weeks away from building a nuclear weapon. And so we need to take out the nuclear sites. We need to effect regime change in Iran. I feel like I've been hearing that Iran is weeks away from a nuclear weapon for at least 25 years.
Yes, verbatim at least a decade, and for longer in substance, yes.
Is Iran weeks away from building a nuclear weapon? Does Iran want a nuclear weapon? Will Iran get a nuclear weapon? What is the truth about Iran?
Iran does not want a nuclear weapon. Iran's neighbors, like the Saudis and others in the Gulf, do not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. Iran's major ally, Russia, does not want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. And Iran doesn't want a nuclear weapon. But Iran does not want to be defeated militarily by Israel, does not want to be bombed to hell by Israel, and does not want to be sanctioned to death economically by the United States, which the U.S. has been doing now for endless years.
We were hearing this.
She's a great actress. These numpties, these goofs, are taking literal clips from movies, putting in the background. Oh my God! Oh, Trump won! Come on.
Yeah, so that's a fucking movie.
Losers. All right. Yeah, I'm just talking about Valor Ventures again, and more investment firms connected to Palantir. This is Arnon Milchan, Israeli billionaire, businessman, film producer, and former spy. He's been involved in over 130 full-length motion pictures, which include a lot of prominent actors within Hollywood. I'm talking like Mel Gibson, Ben Affleck, like these types, Brad Pitt, Angelina Jolie, I believe, as well. On that, anyways, just a bunch of people, and I'm just wondering how much influence there has been in these films. All right, so just very interesting times. Very interesting times, and this information needs to get out to people that are working in Senate, Cabinet, House of Commons, House of Representatives, etc. And we need to do it quickly and peacefully and respectfully, obviously, and understanding that there's still people within like the highest levels of the legal systems in Canada and the U.S. and other areas that are bought and paid for, supporting and pushing these radicals and supporting them, and Justin Trudeau like hiring people within his government that were lawyer types, really well connected with certain industries and organizations and out of major cities, and yeah, and so taking our money in order to be able to like try to justify like legally screwing us over as much as people. But anyways, there's a lot of illegal activity that he's done as well, and so maybe there'll be a Nuremberg 2.0. That'd be nice. Theresa Tam, who resigned or is resigning, needs to be in jail. Okay, so yeah, today's gonna be a long video, but like I've said before, I'm gonna be gone for like 8 days, and I'm not gonna be doing any videos during that time this month, and so I want to get as much information out as possible before. Okay, I was talking about electrostatics and difference between electricity and magnetism, positively and negatively charged particles. Okay, 4 forces. I think there's like just electromagnetic energies or forces that are impacted by things like temperature, pressure, and again the matter that's being that's interacting within these environments. Okay, so anyway, I wanted to get into the Astro Theosophy. I ask a lot of questions on ChatGPT. It's super random. Yeah, so just more targeted attacks against Christians in Israel. And so violence and harassment against Christians in Israel and the occupied territories have increased in recent years, driven largely by small but vocal extremist fringes. Key points: documented attacks between 2018 to 2023. It's way higher now. At least 157 separate incidents targeting Christian holy sites or worshippers were recorded, including vandalism of churches, arson of convents, spitting at clergy, and physical assaults. Yeah, so under enforcement, many Christian leaders and NGOs, example, Latin Patriarchate, I don't know what that is. Anyway, Rossing Center, complained that police often treat these as minor disturbances rather than hate crimes, leading to low arrest and conviction rates. The growing influence of far-right parties in the Knesset and vocal ultra-Orthodox militias has, critics argue, normalized anti-Christian rhetoric and made enforcement more uneven. And I've talked about Smotrich and Ben Gvir and others that are also like inciting this and fueling this. Okay, so I was asking ChatGPT, can you please give me 6 examples of religions, prophets, deities, gods, goddesses with connections to the sun and its travel path through the 12 zodiac signs, connections with the sun and 12 titans, apostles, tribes of Israel, for example. I'm just asking general questions. And then, so it gives me 6. So you've got ancient Egypt with a solar deity or figure was Ra as one of them. And so this is what ChatGPT said, just 12 hours of night. So connection to the zodiac and travel path of the sun. Ra sails his solar bark through 12 underworld hours each night, and then overworld hours each day. So in temple ceilings and coffin texts, these 12 hours correspond to the sun's journey through the 12 houses of the duat, an Egyptian analog to the zodiac signs. You got ancient Greece, Helios, son of Hyperion, a titan, and then you've got the 12 Olympian gods, the divine circle of 12 on Mount Olympus, the divine circle of 12, the Mazzaroth, the zodiacal belt, the 12. So every dawn, Helios drives his chariot through the 12 constellations of the ecliptic. Poets liken each zodiacal segment to passing under a different Olympian patron. Example, Aries under Eris, Leo under Zeus, etc. So even with the travel path of the circle, some people like to see Aries as the sun enters Aries on a daily and annual basis as like that 0 degree or 360 degree point of a circle, and then going from there for the calendar, and then like the 1 degree per day ish to get the annual calendar that we experience. And when we have equal amount of day and night in the northern and southern regions of this contained earth plane. Anyway, Vedic Hindu, you've got Surya, 12 Adityas, children of Aditi and Kashyapa. The 12 Adityas each preside over one of the lunar months or solar zodiac signs. Surya himself is sometimes counted as one among them, yet also rules the annual circuit of the zodiac. Just like, anyway, we're going to talk about here. Zoroastrianism, Mithra. 12 Amisha Spentas, divine emanations of Ahura Mazda. Mithra, guardian of the light, is celebrated at each of the 12 Mithraic feasts aligned with the sun's passage into each zodiac sign, marking seasonal and zodiacal thresholds. Early Christianity, you've got Sol Eustate, son of righteousness, Christ, and the 12 apostles or disciples. And then Sol Eustate was obviously replaced by Jesus. But anyways, so you've got the 12 apostles, church fathers, for example, Jerome, drew parallels between Christ as the true sun passing through the heavens of the 12 tribes of Israel, or Isis, Ra, El, which or the 12 ages zodiac signs, and gathering his 12 disciples for each of the signs. So the 12 tribes of Israel. So God, allegorical, God renamed Jacob or Judah, depending on who you talked about, Jacob, Israel. And then so you have the remnants of the Canaanites and the Sumerians and the Egyptians, even with that name. So you've got Isis, which is a moon god, Egyptian, and then you've got Osiris, was seen as God or the creator, and Horus, their son, is what represents the sun. So you've got Isis, Ra, a sun god, Isis, a moon god, and then El, which in other ancient civilizations called God or the creator. And yeah. So in some rabbinic Kabbalistic traditions, the 12 tribes correspond to the 12 constellations or months. Each sunrise in a different sign was thought to shed a particular blessing on the tribe aligned with that sign. And so for Judaism, you have Shamash, sun symbol of Yahweh. In Babylonian influenced text, how the sun's path ties them all together. So zodiac as a solar road. Across cultures, the ecliptic, the sun's apparent annual path through the 12 equal divisions of the sky, became the template for any 12-fold divine circle, hours, gods, tribes, apostles. And when I talk about circle, I am not talking about a sphere or a globe, because this could be like if it's being viewed two-dimensionally, like a top-down view, for example. I'm not saying this is what it is, but like when you look at different shapes, like whether it be a cone or a cylinder or even a half sphere, you like when you look at it in a two-dimensional way, you would see a circle or a ring or a disc, whatever you want to call it. And Eudoxus talks about this as well, and about the luminaries being ethereal plasma-like luminaries not three-dimensional, and then also discusses their path. And so you've got, so this transcends religious and biblical and cultural texts. These are actual scientists and expert mathematicians, the greats of the past that are saying the same thing differently. Ish. So you've got the solar deity and 12 divine agents. So many myths place the sun or its personification at the center, with 12 helpers or manifestations, Adityas in India, hours in Egypt, apostles in Christianity, each governing one segment of the yearly cycle. Seasonal and liturgical calendar. These 12 segments not only map constellations, but also frame festivals and rites. For example, Roman Mithraic temples mark each zodiac entry with a feast of Mithra. Christian liturgy celebrate major feasts around solstice, equinox, signposts inherited from earlier solar calendars. Symbolic unity. Whether it's Ra navigating the underworld's 12 hours, Helios under the watch of 12 Olympians, or Christ gathering 12 apostles, the pattern underscores a universal idea. The sun's steady journey through the 12 stages reflects the order of heaven and the cycle of time. And then I ask, can you now do the moon and 12 or 13 zodiac signs if you include Ophiucus, please? So you got the tradition or the religion, you got Greek mythology, the lunar deity or figure was Selene. 13-fold counterparts, so you've got 13 Olympians with Hestia or Dionysus. Connection to the moon's path through 12 plus Ophiucus. Poets sometimes note that Selene's silver chariot passes through 12 zodiac signs, and as she dips behind Ophiucus, the serpent bearer, the horizon appears to swallow the moon before she rises again. Roman religion, you've got Luna, 13 consentes, Jupiter, Juno, Vesta, for examples. Roman astrologers sometimes included Ophiucus as a hidden sign. Luna's monthly cycle was charted against all 13 constellations to predict omens, especially in military augury. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not on mute because that would suck. Anyway, Hindu Vedic, you got Chandra. The 27 nakshatras, lunar mansions, grouped into 13-ish signs. So through the nakshatras, 27 approximate 2 times 13 plus 1. And then you've got the 27. So you even got for the Christian, the King James version of the Bible, the Christian Bible, there are 39 books in the Old Testament, 27 in the New. Add those up and it equals 66. But even 3 times 9 is 27. So there's this repeat consistent 27 as well that we see. And I don't think it's a coincidence. Okay, so the primary lunar markers, astrologers also map Chandra's transit through 12 zodiac signs plus Ophiucus as an interstellar mid-house. That's what I was trying to say to Dave the other day, like a mid-house that adjusts the lunar calendar to solar months. And I think the adjustment happens for that when the sun it's like end November to early December. So Mesopotamian goddess of the moon was Sin or Nanar. 13 Enuma, Anu, and Lil omens tied to the lunar zodiacs. So Babylonian lunar omen texts divide the ecliptic into 13 stations, including Apple Sin, corresponding to Ophiucus, through which Sin travels each month, each station yielding specific divinations. Chinese folk, you've got Chang's, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, 13 moon festivals, mid-autumn plus 12 full moon days. The 13 lunar months are each associated with one of the zodiac constellations, including Ophiucus as the hidden serpent month, and celebrated with local moon cake festivals. You've got Norse tradition, you've got Mani, 12 runes of the moon, lunar rune row. In some rune poems, Mani's nightly journey is said to touch all 12 zodiac signs plus an extra night rune under Ophiucus, marking the mid-winter moon. How the moon's 13-sign journey works. Zodiac plus Ophiucus. The ecliptic circle passes through the 13 IAU constellations if you include Ophiucus between Scorpius and Sagittarius. Many ancient folks' astronomies recognized a 13th lunar station there, often called the serpent portion. Lunar months versus solar zodiac. Since the moon completes a circuit in approximately 27.3 days, it spends roughly 2 days in each zodiac sign, including Ophiucus. So each month's full moon can fall in all 13 signs depending on calendar adjustments. But there's no full moon in Ophiucus. Anyway, 12+1 structures. Culture maps the moon's cycle onto existing 12-fold divine circles by inserting an extra midway station, Ophiucus, or a special festival, ensuring the lunar year, approximately 13.37 lunations or full moons in a year, synced back to the solar year. This sampling shows how the lunar's cycle was woven into 13-fold cosmic schemes, aligning each full moon or lunar mansion with all 12 zodiac signs plus Ophiucus, often to regulate calendars, rites, and omens. Because then I asked him like how to break this stuff down, and so there's nothing really here. Let me see. Solar signs: Babylonian 12, Egypt deacons, Razi's 12 animals in China for solar signs. So each sun sign, Aguluba, linked to a chief deity: Marduk, Nabu, Ninurta, traits of power, wisdom, war, etc. 27 lunar mansions, Babylon, Egypt, 12 deacons, 12+1 twilight hour. The 13th hour at dusk dawn when Ra is hidden, time of transformation. 12 Razis and 13 lunar months. So Rasis, Mesh, Mean each have a ruling planet and guna, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, Adityas, and Nakshatras. 27 stations, refined moon. Rat, Pig give yearly personality archetypes. Leap month aligns lunar calendar to solar cycle. This is why we have these leap years, like even with the full moons, the new moons, and the travel path and speed of the sun and the moon during these periods, and how like the sun has has different speeds depending on which ring or circle it's traveling throughout. Sometimes where it has to speed up because there's a larger surface area it has to cover, or it will slow down, like when it's traveling in the Tropic of Cancer, like I've said before. So it's moving slower over a smaller area. And when an analemma is mapped out, which is on a lot of globes, you'll see that like during these periods, like the top part of the analemma is significantly smaller than the larger portion of it, and it would be a proper infinity symbol, not the analemma type with like that huge, like larger bottom portion, if the speed variations and distance, the distance especially, was not factored in. And so Babylonian, the sun in Leo heralds kingship. Marduk in Scorpio portends conflict. And this is just like the heaven and hell stuff again. Decanic temples carve the sky into 12 hours, with the 13th liminal hour marking rebirth. But again, there's 24 hours in a day. They're just talking about like when the sun's traveling more in balance during these equinox periods. This is where we have equal amount of day and night in the northern southern regions of this contained environment anyway. So Maya, a moon rising on 4 Ajah is auspicious. A 13th day called 13 Emix begins the next 260-day Zulk cycle. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing these words. Okay, sun's annual circuit. The moon's monthly journey. The sidereal versus synodic months. Sidereal is 27.3 against stars. Synodic is 29.5 between full moons. And you have people that base their calendars on when there's a new moon in certain signs, or a full moon in certain signs. So some people believe that the start of the spring season is when the new moon is in Aries, not when the sun enters into Aries, which is very interesting. But again, it depends on what calendar system you're looking at, because they're both different. Twilight, liminality at dusk dawn, the fleeting 13th hour. Very interesting. Okay. So you've got quiet organ loop. That's funny. just I don't want to be redundant. So scriptures and symbol notes. So Genesis 1:14 through 18, foundation for seasonal and zodiacal theology. Exodus 28:15 through 30, Aaron's breastplate, 12 gems, 12 tribes, 12 signs, like even Mary with the crown. Psalm 19, the heavens declare the glory of God. Their line has gone out through all the earth. Ezekiel 1 and Revelations 12, apocalyptic visions drawing on zodiacal imagery. Jeremiah 31 through 35 through 36, sun and moon as perpetual covenant witnesses. You've also got it where God created the two great lights, one to rule over the day, one to rule over the night. Yeah, so I'm asking questions about so woman as corporate Israel, God's chosen people of whom the Christ was born. Galatians 4:4. The church, by extension, New Testament writers, Paul and Romans, apply that tribal imagery to the church, grafted into the promises of Israel. Again, it's Isis Ra-El. Revelations context, the birth and flight of the Messiah. The woman can stand for the faithful remnant who bear and nurture the Messiah. It's got Marian Christian tradition, especially in Catholic and Orthodox exegesis. The woman also prefigures Mary, full of grace, Luke 1:28, who bore the Son of Righteousness, and in iconography is often shown with 12 stars around her, or 13 in some cases. But anyway, the uncounted daughter, Dinah, Jacob's only daughter, she is never listed among the 12 sons, the tribes, yet her story profoundly affects the family. So Genesis 30:34. Some modern writers draw a symbolic parallel. Just as Dinah stands outside the numbered sons, yet is vital to Israel's narrative, so too the woman in Revelations goes beyond a mere tribal head count. She brings forth the Messiah and then is cast out into the wilderness to be protected. So you've even got Lilith in some examples as well, and like Mary, like I was saying. But it's similar creation stories of people interpreting the luminaries above us that were created by some kind of creator God, whatever you want to call them. Yeah, so I believe that Dinah represents the moon. In brief, yeah, whatever. There's some chaos names like Elra, even Isis. The woman with 12 stars on her head is overwhelmingly understood as God's covenant people, the nation of Israel. Again, this like Israel, Isis, Ra-El, sun, moon, God. This is literally just another creation story, just like Mary, Jesus, and God, just like Shiva, Krishna, and Brahma, just like Isis, Osiris, and Horus. There's so many other examples of this. Respectfully speaking, this is talking about the world. Well, the individual journey, our journey, we also represent the sun in these stories, and how we can self-actualize and access our higher levels of consciousness and our divinities from within through our works, or through balancing out things like the not balancing out, but like by looking at things like the 7 deadly sins, which are also transcribed in multiple different religions in ancient texts and scriptures, etc., as rules to live by, right? And these 7 deadly sins are absolutely connected to these 7 luminaries, wandering stars. And I've said before that with the sun ruling over Leo, pride, that's the 7 deadly sins. So like not Christian and Jewish religions. By the way, these are very compatible religions, to be clear. We have like done really well living with each other for many years. So this is why I'm saying that the extreme left and this extreme right push, these radical ideologues are actually causing a lot of harm within their own communities. I'm trying to speak out on it because there's a lot of cool Jewish people that I know, even personally, and they're also getting subjected to like harassment and targeted attacks and things like that. And it's a shame, or even just trolling online. But it's not helping. And so anyways, so pride, like especially within like certain religions, it's a sin. And so that's why when we have things like Pride Month and these things, like people do see this, the more extreme types, as a sin, and a way where you're not self-actualizing or leading a life like Jesus as close as you can as possible. This is why this is a story about like resisting temptations, because this is our biggest issue. Anyways, and also connected to the like the 7 days of the week, 7 colors of the rainbow, like there's so many different things. So the chakra systems, I've already talked about that being the crown chakra, which the chakra is just an embodiment of the other chakras. If you live like a certain way where you're adhering to like these codes or these principles of life that like every single civilization and culture has also tried to put out there as lessons. Cancer, the moon, envy, because you've got God, like the great light being the sun. You got the lesser of the lights ruling over the night, right? And so like people are within their stories, they're saying, oh, because it's the lesser light, like must be envious of the greater light, and not having that connection, that close personal connection with the sun, as the sun has with everyone else, like these, like the people that the moon births, like these luminaries or whatever you want to call it, and so you have Mercury, which is connected to Virgo and Gemini, but that the 7 deadly sin correlated with that is greed, right? And so very interesting with communication. Like you could be greedy with like or lie out of greed. People that'll lie or fully captured because again they're getting paid a lot of money to do that, right? That's people that are being very greedy. Like you worship money, not God, right? And so false idols. Venus, connected to the color green, the fourth chakra, which is the heart chakra. Day of the week is Friday, and Libra and Taurus are ruled by Venus. And Venus, you've got figures like Dawn, Hera, Eos, Lucifer, Aphrodite, like these loving figures, could be lustful figures, etc. And you've got that connection with lust being one of the 7 deadly sins to watch out for. You've got Mars, and with Mars rules over Aries and Scorpio, and again the third chakra, the solar plexus. Day of the week, Tuesday, color yellow, element iron. I could go on a list of this stuff. If I'm overdoing it, I apologize. But anyway, the 7 deadly sin associated with Mars is wrath, right? And wrath, you have these figures like Aries and Scorpio throughout history that have been known to be more wrathful or dark energies, occult, hidden, mysterious. Yeah. And there's also like connections to the body as well. You've got Jupiter. And so the 7 deadly sin connected to Jupiter, which is like the biggest luminary or planet that they allege, is gluttony, right? And I don't think there's any mistakes to that either. Jupiter rules over Sagittarius and Pisces. Element is tin, connected to it, the color orange. Day of the week, Thursday. And again, the sacral chakra. And you've got Saturn rules over Capricorn and Aquarius. Element lead. And so obviously the last of the 7 deadly sins is sloth, and sloth is connected to Saturn and Capricorn and Aquarius. And so I hope that's interesting to people. And these were codified into laws to hold people accountable, just like the Quran. This is where Sharia law was derived from, codified into law. And I don't think that's a compatible religion, respectfully speaking. But it doesn't mean that I support and want to enable and fund crimes against humanity and literal genocides against innocent civilians. So that's why I'm talking about what's going on as well within these areas. It's not because, anyway, especially radical types, not compatible, respectfully. And yeah, our constitution and legal frameworks are connected to or derived from like the Christian religion. So the name Israel and El in the ancient Semitic word for God is the ancient Semitic word for God. When God renames Jacob Israel, he struggles with God or Prince of God. That name literally includes El at its root. El also appears in many Canaanite theonyms and in the Hebrew names of patriarchs and prophets, Eli, Michael, El, me, etc. But in Israel's Bible, it is always Yahweh, El, not the pagans' pantheon. And again, sure, like describe it how you want. It's still the same name describing the same thing. So parallels and contrasts with Isis, Ra, Babylonian deities. For the culture, you got Egyptian deity Isis, mother goddess, healer, Mary as mother of Messiah. And key difference, Isis is one among many gods. Mary is a creature blessed by one sovereign creator. And so this is differences too where you have people that are more tolerant and where you have people that are less tolerant, when their values or morals or ethics are framed in a monotheistic versus a polytheistic religious ideology or text. I'm hoping I'm explaining that right. Where you have people that where it's monotheistic religious rulership or leadership, whatever you want to call it, one God. And there's absolutely no room for any other gods. And again, this is what continues to cause division and wars and things like that, even at the lowest and highest levels. And then you got the polytheistic religions, including Buddhism and Hinduism and again, what they're calling these pagan ancient religions and stuff like that. But no, these are just people that are discussing the other luminaries in the sky and these fixed constellations or zodiacal images also, and assigning characteristics or traits to these luminaries. And it seems that people are less tolerant when they come from a more monotheistic religious background or foundation as opposed to the polytheistic. And again, these are allegories. So Egyptian Ra, sun god who sails the sky. Christ as the son of righteousness. Ra is part of an elaborate pantheon. The Bible has one true God who made the sun. Mesopotamian, and Lil El, high god of wind and sky. Yahweh is uniquely self-existent and covenantal, not one among pantheons. So you've got the Canaanite El, father of gods and Ugarit, El of Israel, El Shaddai. Canaanites worship. So then you got like Zion and Sion and very similar names with Zeus and Jesus and Jesus, je suis, I am. And you got Descartes, I think, therefore I am. Same stories. Even the cave, the allegory of the cave, Brahma, Plato, Adam and Eve, like these cave stories are also talking about accessing our higher levels of consciousness and becoming more enlightened through oil. Anyway. And people are anointed in various religions as well with oil. It used to be things like coconut oil or olive oil. And this was just representative of that oil that travels up our spine. If we live a life where we're resisting temptations and abiding by certain codes at an individual level so that we're better for the collective, then this oil becomes Christ-like or illuminated, divine, and then we access our higher levels of consciousness. When this oil is secreted up, travels up our spine through our energy systems, balancing the chakras. And it starts when the moon travels through our sun sign within like the monthly period, and so when that happens, this is when possibly like this protein is created within the sacral or solar plexus region, the energy body systems there, and then travels up the spine into the brain. And there's 12 cranial nerves, and you've got Pitta and Gala, honey and milk. That's the pituitary gland and the pineal gland. These secretions that help regular avatar. And the claustrum is the brain's brain that connects this avatar to our higher level energy system, body, whatever you want to call it, that's beyond this cosmos that I can't even begin to try to explain because it's beyond my level of intelligence. Seasons and festivals. So Genesis 1:14 says the sun and moon are for the signs and seasons. The appointed times, Passover in spring, Pentecost in early summer, trumpets in fall, tabernacles in autumn. As the sun moves into each sign, the Jewish calendar marks the festivals that correspond to the agricultural season. So Jacob Israel is her father, not her person. The biblical El shares a root with pagan God's name, but Yahweh is wholly other, the singular creator, not the deity among many. But again, yes, he is, respectfully speaking. Yeah, so what do you mean by corporate people? Because that was mentioned by ChatGPT. And so I say the woman represents corporate people. I mean, she symbolizes a collective entity, not one individual person, but the entire community acting together as a single body in biblical usage. The 12 tribes descend from Jacob's 12 sons. Together they form the nation of Israel. When scripture speaks of Israel, it often means that whole people, every man, woman, and child acting and worshiping as one covenant community. corporate church in the New Testament, the body of Christ or the people of God is similarly a single organism made up of many members. 1 Corinthians 12. Each believer is a cell in a larger body, and together they function as Christ's one church. So again, I'm ending the wars here. You're welcome. I'm ending religious wars. I'm giving a better, I think, closer interpretation of what everyone is friggin' trying to say, but they're trying to say it in different ways, and they're, oh no, what you're saying is wrong, and so like I'm gonna kill you for anyways. And so we're all saying the same stuff, ladies and gentlemen, but people have this little bit of a spin on it. Perception is reality. Oh yeah, then I get into AIDS. Anyways, yeah, this is when I was looking into Brian. Project Esther, a policy playbook published by the Heritage Foundation on October 7th, 2024, a year after the staged and planned false flag event that harmed so many people within Israel and Palestine. Oh my God. Anyways, under the auspices of its National Task Force to Combat Anti-Semitism, it lays out a 12-point strategy to recast virtually all pro-Palestinian speech as material support for terrorism, and to mobilize federal, campus, and corporate power to punish protesters and critics of Israel. Yep. And so you've got Mark Levin and Sean Hannity and these money worshippers that are selling out humanity and supporting and enabling war crimes and genocides and more harm and division in the U.S. So thank you guys. You're doing such a friggin' good job. You are so not toxic masculinity. I'm just kidding. It's men and women sharing this stuff. So it's because I said Sean Hannity and Mark Levin. So I was, anyway. Yeah. Anyway. So I was looking at Gregorian versus Julian calendar dates. So below is a summary of the 4 key solar turning points in 1496 as they would have fallen in the Julian calendar in use at the time versus the proleptic Gregorian calendar, i.e. the Gregorian rules extended back before 1582. In 1496, the two calendars differed by 9 days. It's actually more now because they keep on getting further away from each other. But again, because people are not cluing in to properly tracking the sun and the moon through the luminaries and there's a diagonal belt and these different travel paths and making the connections. And you can't make those connections if you can't understand that these luminaries are not trillions and trillions of light years away beyond our friggin' cosmos, and nonsensical, predictable patterns throughout the sky on rings. And I wanted to share some verses too, and some passages rather from it's called Erudis Phenomenae. Anyway, and translated. I went into the Internet Archives and I was able to access it, and I was reading through it the other day because I'm a nerd. Anyways, and it was very fascinating. And unfortunately, I didn't do a friggin' video when it was up, and now it's been removed literally from the internet. It says items may be taken down for various reasons, including by decision of the uploader or due to violation of our terms of use. And so there is really interesting information from people from the past that were much closer to explaining this world and Astro Theosophy than people are now. Like way better at it. And anyway, so I was looking at this because the King James version of the Bible, for example, was published in 1611. You got the 6 + 1 is 7, 711. Anyway, spring equinox, Julian date 11 March 1496. The proleptic Gregorian date, 20 March 1496 for the spring equinox. That's what we're following. So astronomical equinox occurred March 20th. Julian observers marked it on March 11th. You got the summer solstice. We have it, again, depending on if it's a leap year or non-leap year, 21 June. And then for the Julian date was 12 June during this period. Sun reached its maximum northern declination, approximately June 21st UT. Julian date was June 12th. The autumn equinox, 13th September. So sun crossed southward through celestial equator. They say 22nd, but it's actually 23rd, like depending on, again, if it's a leap year, non-leap year. And then the phase of the sun through its precession, or whatever you want to call it, resetting every 19 years, and the moon resets or follows goes back to being like more in harmony with the sun calendar system like every 33 years. So again, the 33 is there again. But autumn equinoxes also, under the Julian dates, fell under the 11th of September. Yeah, the 11th of September. 9/11, 2001. I've shared so much information about 9/11 and how in certain calendar systems, you've got September, October, November, December. You've got September, the number 7. In French, en français, c'est le numéro 7. So you've got the 7 in there. In Latin as well. Like there's so many different connections to September with correlator connected to the number 7. And if you follow the spring equinox calendar, September would be the 7th month. And so you've got it where in some religious groups or occult groups or secret communities or societies, you have it where September 11th, 2001 was the same as like 7/11, not 9/11. And then you got a bunch of 7/11s in the US. And anyway, winter solstice, 12 December versus the 21st of December or 22nd December, leap year, non-leap year. And again, like the circuit or the path through the years, it is a little, very, very little, but it is a little different. So over a longer period of time, this does matter. But gets reset, ladies and gentlemen. And so this is where I might actually talk about it. So what the 9-day difference arises. So the Julian calendar gains a leap day every 4 years without exception. The Gregorian reform of 1582 skipped 3 leap days every 400 years. So year 1700, 1800, 1900 were not leap years. So by 1582, the Julian calendar was 10 days ahead of the real seasons. Proleptic back calculations. So before 1st of March, 1500, the offset was 9 days. It became 10 days on 1st of March, 1500 Julian. Thus, to convert a Julian date in 1496 into the Gregorian equivalent, you add 9 days. Why it matters? Historical dating. Chronicles and diaries from 1496, merchant logs, royal decrees record March 11th as the equinox. Yet by our modern calendar, that was the 20th of March. Oh, what happened on 11th of March in 2020? The 11th of March. Oh yeah, pandemic was declared, which was a plandemic. And they were talking about 201 or 102 countries involved. And like, come on. And like 33 cases. I was just like, are you fucking kidding me? Oh my God. We're in it. We are in it. Anyways. But yeah, looking at the full moons and the new moons for the different seasons to start. Season festivals, feast days tied to equinoxes, solstices. Easter's first Sunday after Paschal. Full moon following the spring equinox would in practice drift if you ignored the calendar shift. Astronomical alignment. Observatories in Renaissance Europe often noted the difference between the church calendar and the true equinox, foreshadowing the later Gregorian reform. We need another calendar reform. I'm just kidding. It's Proxima Centauri. So I just wanted to give you an example of like how far away they say that these friggin' luminaries are. Yeah, so I was asking for videos to break this all down. Like there was really nothing that was provided by ChatGPT for good videos, but I still went with it. Because again, you can still learn a lot. Yeah. Revelations KGV. The 2 great stars you're referring to, Wormwood in Revelations 8, 10 through 11, and the Star of the Abyss in Revelations 9:2 are not part of a creation account at all, but sudden judgment stars that fall to Earth. By that stage in the narrative, the Earth is already long in existence. Yeah, the lights in the firmament, sun, moon, and stars were made by day 4. Earth was formed on day 1. Order out of chaos. So I put this image in that I've shared before, but I asked if I could put Aries in the east, Cancer as south, Libra west, Capricorn north, make a clock with 6 a.m. to 6 to 8 a.m. in Aries, 8 to 10 in Taurus, etc. Please, because I wanted to use this, but update it. It gave me the shittiest diagram. Look at this. Look at this. And it's not even right, because east, again, I want it on this side, on the left-hand side, just like the astrological chart. So again, bail. Each of the 12 30-degree sectors is labeled with a sign and the 2-hour time slot it occupies on this clock. Then I'm like, can you add in the other details from the image I shared? And then it did not. And so I went from there. So again, I just wanted to elaborate on things. A zodiac sign is simply one of the constellations or houses the sun appears to pass through over the course of a year, as seen from Earth. Because the sun's apparent path, the ecliptic, lies against a backdrop of constellations, ancient sky watchers divided that path into 12 equal 30-degree sectors, each named after the most prominent constellations in that sector. Approximate tropical dates, because again, sidereal is different depending on if it's people are going off of a Saturn calendar or a lunar calendar or a solar calendar. For Aries, March 21st through April 19th, depending on if it's a leap year or not. Anyways, the Ram, Aries. And then Ram, Aries, arise. Ram, Mars. Taurus, April 20th, May 20th, approximate the bull. And you've got the bi bull, Taurus, toroidal fields, toroids, Tora, Rota, Tarot. Gemini, twins, Castor and Pollux, and countless others. I think even for cartoons like He-Man and Shiro, were they not twins? She was taken at birth or something like that. One was good, one went dark. Anyway, that's the sun moon story. Cancer, the crab, June 21st to approximately July 22nd. When the sun travels between Gemini, Cancer, this is when we have the longest days, shortest nights. Peaking when the sun is traveling through the Tropic of Cancer, that circular ring closest to the north center of the Earth, and when we experience our summer solstice. And it goes on from there. Capricorn, 22nd December to January 19th, the goat, Capricornus, also named so many other things. So the ecliptic is a 360-degree circle. Dividing it by 12 gives 30 degrees per sign. So this is where we have to factor in all the luminaries, but most significantly would be the sun. But it's not an accident that there are approximately 365 days in a year, 360 degrees in a circle, etc. And 25th, depending on if it's a leap year or a non-leap year, being the 360th day of the year. I don't know that time. Anyways, lunar months and solar year. Ancient calendars balance roughly 12 lunar months, 29.5 days each, with a solar year, approximately 365 days. 12 signs naturally match those cycles. Cultural codification. Babylonian astronomers codified 12 houses by the 5th century BCE, and the system passed into Hellenistic astrology, then into all later Western astrology. What about Ophiucus, the 13th sign? Modern IAU constellations. The International Astronomical Union defines 13 constellations that intersect the ecliptic, the usual 12 plus Ophiucus, the snake bear between Scorpius and Sagittarius. Solar passage. The sun actually spends about 18 days, roughly from November 30th to the 17th of December, again roughly, in the patch of sky astronomers call Ophiucus. Why astrologers usually ignore it? Tradition and symmetry. 12 signs give a neat division of the circle and tie to the 12 months, tribes, apostles, etc. So again, people being lazy and misinterpreting the moon's path with the sun's path. Or maybe not being lazy, that's not fair. Anyway, tropical zodiac. Most Western astrologers use the tropical calendar, anchored to the equinoxes, so their 12 signs aren't fixed to the constellation's actual sky positions away. Anyway, in sidereal astrology, this is like East. Even in sidereal, star-based systems, astrologers typically retain 12 signs for continuity. Ophiucus is treated as part of Scorpio or Sagittarius rather than as its own sign. Key takeaways. A zodiac sign is one of the 12 30-degree sectors of the ecliptic, each named after a constellation. There are actually 13 constellations the sun crosses, including Ophiucus, but astrology has stuck with 12 for historical, symbolic, and practical reasons. None of these are true. Like for historical, symbolic, and practical reasons, you're getting it wrong. And this is where even where like the sun like hits like the ankle or whatever, the Achilles heel, whatever you want to call it. And so again, like this is just people like not properly researching, and this is what I mean with the game of telephone. We're losing it right now. You can't just throw Ophiucus away just because it doesn't line up perfectly with how you want your math to line up. Math is hard, ladies and gentlemen, and the cosmos is difficult. And there's codes. Anyways, if you follow sidereal astrology, your sun sign may shift slightly over millennia due to precession, but even then, most practitioners still work with just 12 signs rather than adding Ophiucus. Yeah, so then I asked about the Aratus phenomena. So yeah, this is not, you're not able to access this anymore either. This link to Aratus phenomena. Yeah, so I wasn't able to open it. I was eventually afterwards, but yeah, so like a lot of these videos, again, they're removed from the internet, even from archives. Why? You leave so much up that is not censored on social media platforms that absolutely make me want to friggin' like wash my eyeballs with bleach. That shit can stay. But I talk about Ophiucus, or I talk about astrology, or I talk about the connection of the sun and the moon as travel path of the luminaries, or other people do as well. And that is what gets deleted. So can you please name 12 figures who were born a few days after the winter solstice? Because I'm saying, like, I'm not committed to, like, oh, these people were born on the 25th. I think that it's regarding the winter solstice period and the sun's travel path there and how long the sun stays within the Tropic of Capricorn before it goes back on its journey towards the ecliptic or the equatorial ring to harmonize our existence during these more harmonic periods where it's better weather, better living conditions in general. Anyway, they give me politicians. I don't give a shit. So the periods. So figure Mithras, 22nd December. So again, this is a winter solstice, depending on if it's a leap year or non-leap year and where you are in the world. Celebrated on the Natalis Invicti, rebirth of invincible sun at winter solstice, often sliding to December 22nd in some Eastern rites. So Greco-Roman mystery cult, calling it a cult. Okay. December 23rd, Horus the Younger, Egyptian sun god, son of Osiris and Isis. In later Coptic calendars, his birth parallels Christ just after solstice. You've got Attis, Phrygian Roman dying and rising god. His birth festival, Hilaria, coincides with December solstice, celebrated on the 24th in some cult variants. I keep on saying cult, oh my God. Anyway, Jesus of Nazareth, Christianity's Messiah, 25th of December. Birth traditionally set at the winter solstice, son of righteousness. December 22nd, Baldur, Norse god of light and purity. Yule 2. December 26th marks the second day of his midsummer in midwinter festival. His return heralds longer days. John the Evangelist, 27 December. Christian apostle and beloved disciple. Feast of St. John is sung as the harbinger of light, linking him to sun's returning power. Dionysus, Bacchus, Greek-Roman god of rebirth and vine feast. In some Hellenistic calendars, his birth, the Dionysia, was placed near solstice to celebrate light amid darkness. So, again, depending on what calendar system you're using, they're saying it's... But again, this is tied to the winter solstice. 28 December, Osiris, Egyptian god of resurrection. Late December festival at Dendera honored his rebirth after solstice darkness. St. Stephen, Christianity's first martyr. His feast was on Boxing Day. Well, what we're calling Boxing Day now. His birth was on Boxing Day. No, just kidding. In the solstice octave, symbolizing the church's witness to Christ, the true light. Freyr, 29th December. So this is my birthday, which is interesting. So Norse god of fertility and sunshine. Yule 7, December 29th, sometimes dedicated to Freyr's light and the promise of the coming spring. 29 December, Sol Invictus, unconquered sun in late Roman cult. Although officially December 25th, many provincial communities have extended rebirth rites through December 29th. We've got St. Thomas, December 29th, Apostle, Doubting Thomas. His feast, marking the spreading of the gospel's true light, completes the solstice week in medieval calendars. So how they tie to the sun's rebirth and the zodiacal houses. Solar deities, Mithras, Sol Invictus, Horus, Attis, Osiris, Dionysus, Baldur, Freyr. Osiris was also seen as God and not Jesus, but anyway, or the sun. But each cult placed their god's birth or return at midwinter, when the old sun is at its lowest declination. Their mythology celebrates the sun's turning towards longer days and traveling from its lowest point, longer days, shortest nights, 23.4 degrees south latitude of the equatorial ring, and then traveling back up out of the dead of winter. Actually, we're just starting winter, but anyway. Early Christians superimposed Christ's birth at the solstice to proclaim him the true sun. The saints of December 26, 29 extend that light in darkness theme across the zodiacal segment of Capricorn, December 22nd through January 19th. The sign symbolically ruled by a mythic sea goat climbing from the depths up to the heights. Zodiacal context: in tropical astrology, the sun enters Capricorn at the winter solstice on or around like the 21st to 22nd December. These 12 dates all fall in the Capricorn house, whose themes of death, return, contraction, growth, and hidden promise mirror the solstice and these deities' resurrection myths. Okay, the sun never actually stops moving along the ecliptic, obviously. Its eastward path through the zodiac. These luminaries are traveling from east to west. We are not spinning the earth. I'm saying we're not going from west to east. But its north-south motion declination does indeed stand still at the Tropic of Capricorn for a few days around the winter solstice before reversing direction. So again, don't take everything ChatGPT is saying as verbatim. And so again, this is really complicated. So I'll see if I can correct anything if it's wrong. So ecliptic versus declination. So latitude versus longitude. That can be easily mapped. Anyway, ecliptic motion, every day the sun advances approximately 1 degree eastward against the background stars, i.e. through the zodiac, that never pauses. Constellations are further away, possibly fixed in their position and traveling like in a significantly slower path than the other luminaries. Anyway, declination motion. This is the sun's north-south shift relative to the celestial equator. It's fastest at the equinoxes and zero at the solstices. I've showed you that. I can show that to you again, how it's mapped up. You can create a sine wave as well with the sun's travel path. The solstice standstill. In Latin, solstitium literally means sun stand still. Around between the 21st to 23rd of December, the sun's declination rate slows to a crawl. So at solar noon, its altitude at the Tropic of Capricorn hardly changes from one day to the next. Typically, you'll see 3 days, plus or minus 1 degree, over which the subsolar point, where the sun is directly overhead, lingers between about 23.26 degrees south and 23.7 degrees south before it begins its northward climb again. So it's saying here, but I'm saying 23.4 degrees south latitude before it goes back up. Why it looks like 3 days. Again, it's like 2 or 3 days. And again, this is like at both solstices, just to be clear, winter and summer. The declination of the sun follows approximate a sine wave over the year. It's given the math. But again, that's around the solstice. The derivative of this passes through zero, turning from negative, moving south, to positive, moving north. Because that change of sign is gradual, the sun's noon altitude on the tropic changes by only a few arc seconds per day, imperceptible to casual observation for about 2 to 3 days. What you see on Earth at a latitude of 23.4 degrees-ish, whatever, south latitude, the Tropic of Capricorn, observers note the day length and midday sun height are identical on roughly 3 consecutive days in late December. South of that latitude, you'll see the sun reach its lowest maximum altitude of the year and then begin to climb again. Yeah. So then I want to confirm things. So saying I'm completing motions of the sun's position or sky. So I'm asking about the apparent motion, the sun clock. So daily apparent motion, the sun clock. Rate 360 degrees in 24 hours is approximately 15 degrees per hour. Isn't that interesting? And the sun travels approximately 15 degrees per hour, 30 degrees every 2 hours through the zodiacal images. And the average speed and rate, again, it's different depending on what ring it's on. Zodiac sectors. Each sign spans 30 degrees of ecliptic longitude. So the sun's apparent daily motion carries it through one sign every approximately 2 hours. Linear speed at the equator, again, the sun, this luminary, its average travel path is approximately 1,000, whatever they're saying it here, 38 miles per hour. Some people say 130 miles per hour. Some people say it's 1,060 miles per hour. I say it depends on where it is, like at what ring it's on. Yeah. Yeah, the sun's diurnal circle is the same everywhere. Annual true motion through the zodiac. Rate 360 degrees and 365.24 days is approximately 0.986 degrees per day, roughly 2.36 hours of clock day. Per sun timing, the sun takes about 30 days to move through each 30-degree zodiac sign. I didn't say that, not 2 hours, no shit. Anyway, yeah, because I think ChatGPT is mixing up the daily versus the annual. Anyway, linear equivalent. Yeah, the sun's moving. So yes, the sun's daily apparent motion is exactly 15 degrees per hour, so 30 degrees every 2 hours, producing our near perfect 24-hour clock around the zodiac circle. No, though, this has nothing to do with the sun's annual 1 degree drift through the 12 sign zodiac, which takes about a month per sign. It's all connected. The short answer is only in a purely symbolic zodiac. Okay, so built around the spring equinoxes does the sun. So the short answer is only in purely symbolic zodiac clock built around the spring equinox does the sun rise in Aries at 6 a.m., move into Taurus at 8 a.m., into Gemini at 10 a.m., etc. In real astronomy, the sun's daily path, diurnal motion, and its annual path through the 12 zodiac signs are two entirely separate motions, but they still do it. There's an annual motion and then there's a yearly motion. I'm not disputing that at all. I'm saying they are very much connected, though, and it further explains this divine clock, just how perfect and intelligently created and designed it is. Mind blown. And so I've said this before in my countless videos. I will say that when we're more in balance is when, like, the sun is its travel path is traveling. It seems to be like that equatorial ring, and where we have again like this, like a more perfect clock system. Still perfect. Diurnal motion, 24-hour clock. Because the sun travels east to west, approximately 15 degrees per hour, we have the 24 hours. On a clock face, that means every 2 hours, a celestial sphere, including the ecliptic circle, has spun through 30 degrees, the width of one zodiac sign. So separate from that daily spin, the sun itself drifts eastward along the ecliptic at about 1 degree per day, taking approximately 30 days to traverse each 30-degree sign. I know I'm being redundant in this, but again, this is very important information, and I want to get it as much information out, not less. Because I'm still talking. I need things to be clear. The solstice, the sun's annual motion carries it to Capricorn. So when the horizon edge first peaks at dawn, the sun's ecliptic longitude is somewhere between 270 degrees and a day later 271 degrees, etc. In practice, let me see here. What's more interesting? So it's putting it together. Diurnal, daily, ecliptic, yearly. Earth's cause is the sun's rotation, and ecliptic is the sun's rotation. And it all works out, the math here, though. Yeah, the sun only appears to circle through all 12 sectors overhead each day. Yeah, so I wanted to get into more of the connections here. Different gods, deities, titans, prophets, etc. represented the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. So for culture, pantheon, I just asked for 5, but for Greek, you got the sun, Helios, Selene for the moon, Hermes for Mercury, Aphrodite for Venus, Eris for Mars, Zeus for Jupiter, Kronos for Saturn, Roman Sol, Luna, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Not very original in their naming, very accurate though. Norse, Sol, Mani, Odin, Freya, Tyr, Thor, Jorda. I don't know how to pronounce that. Hindu, Navagraha, you've got Surya, Chandra, Buddha, Shukra, Mangala, Brihaspati, and Shani. Mesopotamian, Utu, Nana or Sin, Nabu, Inanna or Ishtar, Nergal, Marduk or Ninurta. And and each of these luminaries rule over certain zodiacal signs. Mercury, Odin, Wednesday, Woden's Day, Messenger and Psychopomp, Venus, Freya, Friday, linked to Frigg, but Freya has stronger love fertility role. Jupiter, Thor, Thunder, god of sky and weather, parallels Jupiter. Jova, Sky King. Saturn, in Old Norse context, sometimes linked to Njord, god of sea, wealth. Through later Christianization, named it after Saturn. Each of these systems developed independently. This is important. Each of these systems developed independently, but all identified 7 wandering stars as divine beings whose motions in the sky govern fate, time, and ritual. Make that make sense. Unless they're talking about a divinely created clock that was created by God, not by us, not by a Big Bang. Yuval Harari, whose manifesto is Homo Deus and Sapiens, like terrible books. Manifesto, crazy radicalism in there. Completely removes God from the equation or spirituality. This is the physical versus the metaphysical, as Dave Weiss was saying the other day with me, and I totally agreed with him. This is a spiritual war. It really is. Yeah, just like more examples of this. So I want to talk more about Ophiucus. I did get into it more. So the Quran repeatedly affirms that the sun, moon, and the stars are signs of Allah's creative power, but there's no planetary deities. Unlike the pre-Islamic Arab milieu, Islam forbids celestial worship, shirk. Planets are not personified or deified but are objects of study, but they are actually falling more, I would say, like the Saturn worship with the cube, and the hexagram, and the anyway, it's all the same stuff. Like, I'm sorry, but you are anyway, but much different interpretation. So quick gloss. Christian, Christ as solar light, Mary as lunar queen, angels as Mercury, Haniel's messengers. Jewish planetary angels from Kabbalah mirror the 7 lights of creation. And then you've got the Sephiroth and the tree of life. And anyway, Hindu, classical Navagra deities rule each celestial body's karma. Canaanite and Egyptian, ancient Near Eastern pantheons made each planet an important god goddess. Sumerian, the earliest known planetary deities, later adopted by Babylonians. This shows how across their faiths, the 7 wanderers in the sky became divine agents through whom humanity understood time, light, fate, and the cycles of life. Didn't watch the Harry Potters or whatever, wherever this came from. This came from an ancient text, but not all those who wander are lost. And I've got the compass, and I've got the north, south, east, west, and I have the 88 in here as well. I like this tattoo, which I do like, and I know a lot of people don't like tattoos, and that's a write-off for people because they think that we're, I don't know, like porn stars or like weird friggin' creepy. I don't know. I have no idea, but for a lot of women I know that have tattoos, these are the first responder type ladies, and who were badasses and whatever, you know what I mean, that were like cops or military and things like that, and like tattoos, and it's part of the culture in the military and the law enforcement, stuff like that as well. And so so anyways, I got that tattoo in 2016, and so yeah, very interesting. Can you do a write-up? Yeah, so I wanted to do a write-up for Dave, or even for me, and I've got some good examples here, but this is for if anyone wants to do a documentary with me where I can give them a lot of my information and videos and footage and content, and they can put it in a nice, pretty documentary, an hour or 2 long, professionally done, and where we can make sense of the creation story. All right, let's see here. Ancient texts, modern science, and world face in the sky above us. I'm your host, Dan. And over the next hour, we'll trace how humanity has understood the sun, moon, stars, and seasons, from the very first verses of Genesis to cutting-edge astronomy, and from Jewish festivals to Hindi deities to Canaanite mystery cults. Every culture, every age has looked up and asked, what are these lights for? In Genesis 1:14 through 19, the Hebrew storyteller says God made the heavenly lights for signs and seasons, day and night and years. Those same words underlie our calendars. Even today, we still measure time by equinoxes and full moons. Meanwhile, scientists unpack the mechanics. Earth's 23.4 degree northern and southern sun's travel path. So I have to try to fix it on the fly here. So this is why ChatGPT is good, but not perfect. Yeah, we'll read the key verses, unpack ancient Hebrew terms meant rakia, the firmament, our light, and contrast that with the Big Bang. Biblical lights will move to the sun as the greater lights, the moon as the lesser lights. I've already talked about that. Shaping the months, the stars, and planets. In Job 38 and Psalm 19 as symbols of divine power. Yeah, signs of the skies. We'll explain the ecliptic, which I did. The sun stands still at the solstices for 2-3 days. How the moon's sidereal month differs from its synodic month, and how that gives rise to 12 plus 1 lunar stations. Yeah, in the Bible, though, order is more than photons. It's order emerging from chaos. Day 4, God sets the sun, moon, and stars in the firmament. The Hebrews pictured a solid dome holding back cosmic waters, with light bearers embedded like nails in a tent ceiling. Yep. In Malachi 4:2, the Messiah is called the Son of Righteousness, echoing the Egyptian Ra. And so I wanted to break down. So I did a verbal voiceover because I didn't really like what the outline was. So I went and I talked about it here. But I already discussed this. Yeah, I really wanted this to be all mentioned. Okay. I know this is a long video, but again, I want to be thorough and I want to go through all my ChatGPT conversations that are important. Okay, so why do humans everywhere group our sky into 7 wandering lights, 12 houses, 7 inner centers, 7 virtues and sins, 7 colors, 7 days? This synergy isn't coincidence. It's a cosmic code. I love that. Yeah, so the 7 luminaries, they're mythic names across. I gave the 6 traditions before, but there's so many. 12 signs, duads ruled by those 7 luminaries. Chakras, sins, colors, days, mapping each planet sign to inner work. Yep. Scripture and science, Genesis lights, solstices, diurnal clock. The cross-cultural examples, there's just so many of them. Yeah, why 12 and 7 matter. 7 classical planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. Saturn being the Lord of the Rings, the furthest away from the sun, the outer ring. Yeah, the macrocosm and microcosm. Outer heavens, mirror, inner soul. Outer heavens, mirror, inner soul. Perception is reality. Surya, Ra, Adam, Shamash, Mithras, Eunice. Chandra, Kansu, Nana, Yarik, Eunice, Diane, Celine, Artemis, Mercury, Archangel Gabriel, Buddha, Thoth, Nabu, Shahir, Shalim, Hermes. Hermes is a big one for Mercury as well. Venus, Mary, Morning Star. That sounds familiar. Lucifer, Don, Hemera, Eos, Shukra, Hathor, Isis, Inanna. So I don't agree with Isis. Isis was moon, not Venus. And so I'm going to reject that. Inanna, Astarte. So some of these, again, like ChatGPT is not 100% correct, but if people have a little bit of information before going into it, can correct it and not fall for this. So anyways, Mars, St. Michael, Mangala, Set, Anhur, Nergal, Baal, Jupiter, St. Peter, Brihaspati, Amun, Marduk. I don't know about Al. That's God. And some people think that there is, anyway, Saturn, St. Paul, Shani, Geb, Ninurta, Enlil, Habur, Kronos, Satan, the devil. Why 2 signs per planet? Okay, so except for the sun and the moon, like I've talked about, 2 adjacent signs. So don't take it from me. Here you have it right here. Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, broken down by who they rule over and which ones are masculine, which ones are feminine or negative or positive. And symbolic attributes. Also assigning degrees of the circle to cardinal points. Yeah. Inner mirrors, chakras, sins, colors, days. So root, Saturn, Capricorn, Aquarius, lead, red, Saturday, sloth. Sacral, Jupiter, Sagittarius, Pisces, tin, orange, Thursday, gluttony. Solar plexus, Mars, Aries, Scorpio. That's correct. Iron, yellow, Tuesday, wrath. Heart, sun, Leo, gold, violet, Sunday, pride. Yep. Throat, Venus, Taurus, Libra, copper, green, Friday, lust. Third eye, moon, Cancer, silver, indigo, Monday, envy. Crown, where's in crown? It's not the crown. What are you talking about? Mercury, Gemini, Virgo. Throat. Yeah, so see, the ChatGPT gets it wrong. All right. I'll fix it. So the root chakra, Capricorn, Aquarius, lead, Saturn, sloth. You've got Jupiter, Sagittarius, Pisces. Tin, orange, second, yeah, chakra. And gluttony. Okay, so that's correct. Solar plexus, Mars. Scorpio, Aries, iron, yellow. Tuesday, wrath. It's correct. Okay, so this is where they have it reversed here. Okay, so the sun is the crown chakra. So the ChatGPT has it mixed here. Leo, gold, violet, Sunday, pride. But they have the chakras there. So the sun is the 7th chakra. So the throat chakra is Mercury. See how wrong this is? Throat chakra, Mercury. 5th chakra, Virgo, Gemini, Mercury, blue for the color, and Wednesday. And just to be clear here as well, you've got the, yeah, that's, so third eye, moon, Cancer, silver, indigo, Monday, Lundi, envy. And then you have Mercury. Yeah, I think I already said that. Mercury, blue, Virgo, Gemini, throat. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. And anyway, so a little bit of a correction on ChatGPT before I do. Synthesis and closing reflection. Let me see here. What's this talking about? Microcosm, Genesis, lights, chakras, and festivals. You'll also notice that are the colors of the rainbow. You have it on the perimeters because again, there's a visible and the non-visible light spectrum and the audible and inaudible hearing spectrum or audible spectrum. And you have it where you've got the ultraviolets and stuff like that transcend like the violets, and you've got the infrareds like that go beyond our visible light spectrum, our ability to perceive, that go beyond the red. But you have in the middle here, right in the middle of the color spectrum is where the color green resides. And us humans as well, like we see more shades of green than any other color. So I think that that's very interesting as well, that I believe that we're that this cosmos is being, like where we're Earth, like where we exist is projected on a flat plane of inertia. So like in the middle, and this is where like green also sits at the middle, and we perceive more of those shades. But anyways, connected to Venus or Lucifer, Hemera, Dawn, which is my name, which is cool, Eos, Hemera, etc. And just going through the degrees here again, just to show the ecliptic, like the paths. Let's see here. The sun's declination is a sine wave. We already know that. I've shared that. Okay, over the course of a year, the sun's declination, angular distance north and south of Earth's celestial equator, follows approximately this. Because the cosine function passes through zero gradually, the derivative remains very small for a couple of days on either side of the exact solstice moment. Results: observers at the Tropic of Cancer or Capricorn will see the sun's noon altitude change by only a few arc seconds per day for about 2 to 3 consecutive days. It literally, well, it doesn't literally, but it stands still. But I mean, that does. And so this is where these creation stories as well, where you have, where St. John, which is 6 months before or after, depending on what you want to look at, Jesus, for when Jesus is born, St. John the Baptist is celebrated the day he passed, being the 24th of June. Okay, so this follows the summer solstice path, where the sun is at its highest point for 2 to 3 days, and then starts the descent from the highest point. Yeah, so we're seeing it right here as well. The winter solstice, sun's noon altitude begins to increase. It decreases after the summer solstice. Yeah, the solstices don't fall on a fixed calendar date because they're the ones that are assigning the calendar system. Like that is the calendar. Anyway. Yeah, so I mean, it shifts and stuff like that too, but anywhere between 20th and 23rd of December is usually when the winter solstice starts. And between June 19th, very rare, but for the summer solstice. And it depends on if it's a leap year or non-leap year. Time zones, tropical year, Gregorian year. Canada, like virtually every modern country, uses the Gregorian calendar for all civil purposes. The Julian, I already know, this was just to share with you guys online. So if you think that, like, I also asked, what color is the sky, right? Like, anyway, it's to get it out, to see what ChatGPT says. The Julian calendar was replaced by the Gregorian calendar in most of the British Empire, including what is now Canada, in 1752, and no jurisdiction in Canada has reverted to Julian since. And then the solstice, because the Julian calendar now runs 13 days behind the Gregorian, the solstices fall on these old-style Julian dates. Okay, so summer solstice, Gregorian, June 20 to 22nd. Julian, June 7 to 9. Canonically, June 21st to June 8th. Winter solstice, Gregorian, December 20th to 23rd. Julian, December 7th to 10th. Canonically, December 21st. Julian, December 8th. The Gregorian reform of 1582 removed 10 days that year and omits 3 leap days every 400 years, 1718, 1900. That's why by the 21st centuries, the Julian calendar has drifted an extra 3 days, totaling 13 days. That gap will become 14 days in the year 2100, when Julian has a February 29th, but Gregorian does not. So it's very interesting. Yeah, so 1700 11-day difference, 1800 12-day difference, 1900 13-day difference, 2000 stayed at 13 days because 2000 was leap in both, will become a 14-day difference. So what about equinoxes during the same dates? The same skew that affected solstice dates also shifts the equinoxes by the identical number of days, obviously. In other words, at each stage, the Julian calendar equinox falls 10, 11, 12, or 13 days earlier. Julian, then Gregorian. So we've got these dates. Subsequent century shifts. So from 1800 to 1899, it was 12 days. The spring equinox, March 9th, March 20th, as opposed to March 21st. September 11th, as opposed to September 23rd for this period. Very interesting. Okay. So these are just the current equinox days. Okay. So does the moon travel through Ophiucus 2 times during the year, not just November? Again, I answered. Sometimes I just throw things out there just to see what it says. So no, not far from twice a year. I knew that, and I explained that with Dave. We call Ophiucus every sidereal month. Sorry, the moon actually slips through the patch of sky we call Ophiucus every sidereal month. Here's why. The moon's path versus ecliptic. The moon orbits Earth nearly in the same plane as Earth orbits the sun, the ecliptic with a small 5-degree tilt. Anyways, bullshit. The moon travels above us on its own elliptical path or circuit ring, whatever you want to call it, through the days and seasons as well. Different calendar that tracks different things. This means each month it traces out a circle against the background constellations that's only slightly inclined, and that circle cuts through all 13 IAU zodiacal constellations, including Ophiucus. As the moon moves about 13 degrees eastward per day against the stars, it enters the 18-degree wide span of Ophiucus roughly once every lunar orbit. Over the course of a year, you'll see it spend about 1.5 days in Ophiucus each month, so roughly 13 crossings annually. Why the twice a year idea? The sun only spends those few weeks. I don't know why I said twice a year. Anyways, the sun only spends those few weeks, late November to mid-December, in Ophiucus. So you might hear Ophiucus season once a year. But the moon's much faster motion means it whizzes through all the zodiac constellations, including Ophiucus, every month, not just that one solar zodiac interval. So every month the moon travels through Ophiucus for less days than the other fixed signs because it's smaller. So why is there never a full moon or new moon in Ophiucus like the others? Again, I'm just asking. I want to get more information on Ophiucus. So not being an astrological sign, Ophiucus simply doesn't sit in the same uniform 30-degree slices that the 12 zodiac signs occupy. Its patch of sky along the ecliptic is both narrower. Wow, I can't talk today. Anyways, and offset from those regular sign divisions. A full moon, opposition, or new moon conjunction always happens at a very specific ecliptical longitude pair 180 degrees apart, and those longitudes land exactly at the centers of the 12 30-degree signs, not in the 18 degrees of Ophiucus. Full new moons by longitude. New moon occurs when the moon's ecliptic longitude is equal to the sun's longitude. Full moon occurs when the moon's longitude equals the sun's longitude plus 180 degrees. In tropical astrology, these longitudes are locked to the 12 signs: 0 degrees Aries, 30 degrees Taurus, 60 degrees Gemini, etc., etc. So every full new moon falls at one of those 12 times 30 degree marks. Ophiucus is off grid. The IAU, technically, but anyways, IAU boundary for Ophiucus lies roughly between 240 degrees and 258 degrees ecliptic longitude, not a 30-degree boundary. So to have a full moon in Ophiucus, you'd need the sun to be a longitude of, anyways, this is getting monthly moon in Ophiucus versus lunar phases. Every month the moon does sweep through the constellations for approximately 1.5 days, but the phases, new first quarter, full last quarter, always occur at the quarter points of its 360-degree orbit, i.e. a longitude is divisible by 90 degrees, which coincides with the centers of Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, the cardinal signs. When you map them out in the sky, it makes a cross. And the midpoints of the other signs, never in the off-center 80 degrees of Ophiucus. So why are there 13 months tracking the lunar seasons of 28-day months? Anyway, so because a lunar month, you get roughly 12.37 lunations in one solar year. But anyways, it's 13. Anyway, I wanted to show you guys a video, and I do have to go to the bathroom. I drank so much coffee, and so I'm going to play a video because I want to still unpack this, and it's related to what I'm talking about. I don't agree with everything that's being shared in this video. It's a short clip, but I'm going to quickly get a coffee and is this the one? I'm just going to make sure. Almost there. I watch so many things. Okay, you know what? I think this is the one. I'm going to stop sharing ChatGPT and I'm going to get to this video. I'm going to look at a lot of things. I think it's this one. How is it not? It's not sharing. Pushed me out. Does it not want me to go to the bathroom? Just kidding. Interesting. Hi, puppy. All right, I'm going to try to... open it from another site. It's not letting me share. It's really freaking annoying. Anyway, no, I'm gonna have to leave it because I do have to go to the bathroom. So I'm so sorry. Actually, no, maybe I will. I'm just gonna try one more time. This is really freaking, because you're talking about Ophiucus and stuff like that, and the luminaries. This is a good. Just going solo. Okay. Why the fuck? I'm just gonna try to see if I can share anything else. No, it won't. Anyway, so on that note, I will leave it at that, and I'll come back at some point. And then, like, I have to come back before I leave on Tuesday. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.